Hi, I'm Tara, and this is Long Story Short. Financial challenges can affect anybody, and our military men and women are no exception. Half of active duty military report that they're just getting by financially. And HUD data shows that on a single night, there are over 32,000 veterans experiencing homelessness in the United States. Financial challenges affecting veterans. It's an important issue, and so today we're going to dive in. David Ramirez from Soldier On is joining us. I'm thankful and looking forward to the conversation. Here at Money Management International, we believe that financial challenges aren't meant to be faced alone, and financial wellness is a journey. On this podcast, we hear stories of people whose lives have been changed by MMI, and we also hear from the dedicated partners helping to make a difference. These stories are unique, personal, and inspiring. Stay tuned. We're sharing each guest's long story short. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here today.
Oh, I'm very thankful that you're here with us. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot I want to talk about. But first, before we jump in, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is David Ramirez. I'm a United States Army veteran, and I have over 25 years of experience with home lending credit industry. And at one point, I was working with Wells Fargo for over like 17 years. And one of my last positions I had was working with MMI, believe it or not. So we would do home preservation, loss mitigation, litigation. So we would really rely on credit counselors, nonprofit credit counselors to have that conversation with the borrower so we could save their homes. And that was just a very great experience working with credit counselors because one thing, if you're in debt, you're out there or you're struggling through a hardship, the last person you're going to talk to is the lender. That's when I was introduced to like credit counseling, and it kind of transitioned to my role that I'm in today. In 2019, I had the opportunity to help create the financial education program at Soldier On, which we're still doing today.
First of all, thank you for your service. As you said, we've been partnering with you at Soldier On since 2019. And you've been such a fantastic partner. So, for folks that aren't aware, tell us more about Soldier On and what you're doing for veterans.
Soldier On, we've been around since 1994, believe it or not. And we started out originally with transitional housing and really started in Leeds, Massachusetts, Western Mass. We started with just 60 homeless veterans back in 94. But what we're really known for is, we expedited all our support services. We made holistic support services that could help veterans who are either homeless or at risk of homelessness. We also provide housing, and there's a terminology that I like every veteran who's listening on, today, understand what SSVF is. It's called Support Services for Veterans and Families. This is very important because we help administer the SSF grants in the East Coast. And today, just based on that assistance, we're talking about rental assistance, utilities, things of that nature, moving costs, transportation, uh, temporary financial assistance. And as of 2011, we've already helped military veterans and their families with over $55.1 million.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So, SSVF, and I think it's important to recognize that what you do is really sort of a wraparound service. It's not just homelessness or risk of homelessness, it's really anything that a veteran might need. So, who qualifies for help and how do they get that help?
Let me go back real quick, but where we serve at is Massachusetts, upstate New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and we just got Delaware. And we do certain counties in those states. So I just want to give kudos to like everybody involved because we have case managers that go out to the veterans. Every veteran that we have, they have their own Toyota RAV4. And that's what
Mm,
makes We're very unique because if people are experiencing homelessness or at risk, do you think they have time to go into an office or a building?
of course not.
So we're out there and engaging with the community. We're in courthouses. We're under bridges. We're looking for our veteran. So we provide these services, but if you're listening in Texas, California, Wisconsin, just go into Google, SSVF, and put the state that you're in, and you'll find an organization just like ours that could assist you. And what makes us a little bit different is that we provide holistic services. And you ask, what are the eligibility requirements? So in every state, there should be this for SSVF grants for assistance: proof of veteran status, which is a DD 214, VA ID, income less than 80%. It's a HUD area medium income, MMI. So they'll have to go to your income, homeless or court ordered eviction notice. And that's
Okay.
eligibility. So what this means, it's rapid housing. I've had stories where veterans call us in and like, hey, tell me about your journey. Why do you need financial counseling today? Well, I was out on the street and, I called this number, called SSBF. And when the next day a Sojourn representative was at my door and
Ugh.
was able to get me into affordable housing, a unit. That's what the grants provide, and a lot of us veterans are not aware of that. I still go through my VA appointment to this day, and every time I get a chance to talk to a veteran, we're always educating and ask them, "Hey, have you ever heard of SSVF?" And could you imagine that? What we don't know hurts us. And just like
Yes.
financial counseling, it's taboo, right? We don't talk about these things, but these things really dictate every aspect of our life.
Yes.
And so the
Yeah.
more we could educate, the better. And that's how they could qualify. But the other resource that we do outside of that, that's available nationally through Sojourn, is our home and credit education program. So any veteran across the country could call our dedicated line, which we partner with MMI. And no matter wherever you're at in the country, whatever your status is, as long as you serve just one day, we're not going to ask for DD 214. You're a veteran. You could call our line and speak with a financial counselor. And that's one of the services that we provide nationally.
What is that number?
It is 1-888-288-3184. And you could call that number directly. You could also go to soldieronsuccess.org and you could
Okay.
schedule your own appointment. It's a beautiful thing because we do financial workshops with our MMI counselors all over the country as well, virtually. And so, when we're dealing with this demographic, they don't have access to internet and things of that nature. So we have
Mhm.
people in the community that are with veterans that are calling our organization, hey, we need help. Here, schedule them an appointment. So if you're out there listening, you see a veteran need, you could do it for them and we will call them.
Wonderful. So, what I'm hearing, and I love this, is really, I feel like one of the things that sets you apart, these wraparound services, but also the fact that you are going out to meet veterans where they are. And, so many times we hear about veterans who are homeless or experiencing or at risk of homelessness. And it's like, okay, well, here are these programs that you might take advantage of, but rarely do you find something that's going to be able to provide assistance on the spot and immediately. So again, 888-288-3184. I'm going to repeat that. And then you can also just Google SSVF in your state to find assistance.
That is correct. And let me give you two numbers for our financial counseling that's nationally, and that's the first one you had mentioned. But Sojourn does have an intake line for SSVF. So if you are located in New York, Delaware, New Jersey, PA, in Massachusetts, you could call our direct line 1-866-406-8449. And we could go on we could have so many different conversations, but call that line. Maybe you're in a neighboring state, maybe you're in the middle of the country and you want to relocate. You're homeless and you're trying to find avenues. It's not uncommon. We have veterans from across the country that come to our shelters. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about. That's one thing that we specialize in our various support services, but we integrate a program where we have permanent housing for veterans. And
Okay.
today, let me share some statistics. If you're up in Western Mass, but we have a lot of buildings and we're housing close to like 1,300 veterans, 1,300
Amazing.
veterans, and we have over 29 sites, community sites, beautiful site. And in some of our Gordon H. Manfield's veteran communities that we have, the veterans get on site support, furnished units, furnished units. They don't have to pay for that.
Yes. Ready to
Yeah.
go.
Transportation. Where do you need to go? A common issue, the veterans don't go to their VA appointments and going after their disabilities. We'll take you there. Daily meals, legal assistance. And then unfortunately, with a lot of our veterans that come to our organization, they just don't have that family line. So we're there with the end of life services. So we do a great job in that. There's so much to share because within the next year or two, we're going to be opening another 10 sites that's going to accommodate enough 750 veterans that have experienced homelessness or at risk of homelessness.
Gosh, you guys are doing such great work. So here's a statistic that I found. The Military Family Advisory Network reports 80% of military members, active duty and veterans, said finances were a cause of stress. And military households are more likely than their civilian counterparts to report financial stress. Why do you think financial issues affect military families more?
Great question. And I could speak out of my experience and just the feedback that I've gotten with veterans over the years since I've been doing this great job. You know, the transition over to civilian life. And let me just paint the picture. If you've never been in the service, whether you're there for 2, 4 years, or you made it a career for 18 to 20 years, when you're in service, you don't have to worry about other things that civilians have to worry about. And you're wondering, what is that, David? Well, we don't pay taxes. I'm a veteran and a combat veteran. That I get stressed out just dressing up, making choices,
Sure.
right? The mental stress, and a lot of veterans, they have a lot of mental health issues, especially experiencing these type of hardships, and then the financial stress. So you come out to the real world, you're never paying taxes. Now you have to buy your own clothes. We had uniforms that were given to us, an allowance for that. I was in the army, so I got my 3 meals a day. And so all these resources, when you're out of the service, it is a shock. And so I think that's where a lot of veterans and families, they struggle because you're in a different culture and then now trying to adapt into the civilian world. And then even insurance, health insurance is given to us. So I don't, how much you pay for health insurance out there. Imagine coming out and like, it's just a shock.
That's such a good point because not only are we talking about these tangible expenses, things that we can point to, but we're coupling those with different struggles that you have, maybe as a result of military service or a result of something else. So when you couple those financial issues that you never were facing before with things like PTSD or medical discharge or things like that, I can see where this is a bigger challenge than people recognize. So, with that knowledge, is there anything or what can military members do while active to help safeguard their finances and sort of prepare for this transition to life outside of the military?
Absolutely. And the first thing I would recommend, and it's true, I was there. I wish we had programs like we do today with So Drawn. After service, I wouldn't even rented an apartment if I was properly educated. And so if you're out there serving, there is life after the military, believe it. That window's gonna close one day. It may be sooner than later, but if you get an opportunity, call our services today and look at your financial situation. So again, call 1-888-288-3184. Get your credit report screening. And what I see with a lot of people that get a lot of military members that get discharged is now I got to go look for a home. Now I got to go look for XYZ. But what's standing in their way? Their credit. And we must understand that credit is now your identity today. It's your
Yes.
identity. And
Yes.
so it's better be in the react mode because when you get home, now you have to rebuild that credit score. You may not qualify for this VA home loan requirements. You're
Mm.
spending more time doing that. And then you're going to be realizing what I just said earlier, like, oh my goodness, now I got to buy me some clothes for this job. Now
Right.
I
And so
got
you're losing one more thing.
yeah, so if you could be proactive and get with a financial coach, start getting your credit intact. So that's the last thing you need to worry about when you get into the civilian world. That would be my biggest advice. And if it's not our organization, look for some locally or within your military base where they offer financial education. But we're here to help. We help so many service members get their new auto loans throughout the program. So there's so many things where this free program is unlimited and comes with a lot of benefits.
I love that you said that because I think a lot of times military folks, they're so focused on what they're focused on. And we love this. But things like, what is my credit score? How do I get this budget together? What is life going to look like outside of the military? How do I start to save for things, later in life? I think a lot of times they don't pay attention to the resources that are right there available for them on base, right? And so, yes, check that credit report, start to think about maybe a projected budget, different things like that can really help sort of soften the blow, so to speak. So, I love this question because I'm sure you're going to have some great stories. when veterans do connect with you. They sort of create that plan, they connect with you for help in their financial challenges. What kind of success stories can you share? What have you seen?
Yeah, yeah, and you can see I'm smiling because that's
Yeah.
the best part of my role is just seeing when veterans and any success is huge to us. We have many veterans that are off the grid, per se.
Right.
We got with the VBA a few years ago, and there was and I forget, but I know it was over 100,000 veterans that are out there that are unbanked. So it was a
Mm.
workout that was unbanked, and that's very concerning to us. It's not a veteran problem; it's a community problem. These
Yes.
veterans are using money orders and things like that, wasting more of their resources because they're not banked. And we come in and teach them about credit. So if you ask about, there's been so many. We contributed, not contribute, but helped assist over like 30 homeowners today. A lot of these veterans were homeless at one point. We're all on fixed incomes. And so when you ask me about some of the best stories, I'll go out off the last two that we just ran a success story. And if you'd like to see more of these stories, just go to soldieronsuccess.org. We have the testimonials from our veterans, but I'll give you two examples. We have an elder veteran, Thomas. He's been working with the program for over a year. And they two different approaches. They're like, I don't know how I'm never going to do this because I only make so much every month. And who doesn't feel that and with inflation and things like that. But we become part of the support system for that veteran. And we're periodically checking up. But in a matter of a year, no, it was 15 months. His credit score increased by 200 points.
Oh,
Working with our financial coaches, and let me give a big old kudos to Mark McBride and Jacob Merritt from MMI, who take the time to really, listen to our veterans. And some, I wouldn't say challenging, but it's different because there's a lot going on. We're getting them off the
mhm,
street. They're
mhm.
in units. They're maybe transitional housing. They're not in permanent housing yet. So there's a lot of stress going on. But when you see them recover and now into their own affordable housing, their own rental unit, and now talking about home ownership, what gets me is always the tone, how people react after a few sessions. And it's that simple. And I ask them like, well, how long were you on the phone with Jacob and Mark? Well, just 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And like, time is so valuable, but think about this if you're out there. It just takes 30 minutes. We check up on you. We're that support system. And the other story that I could tell you, another veteran that I just, oh my goodness, I could show you pictures on my phone of all the homes that people are showing. And that's, I'm looking at my phone right now. But Ricky called me the other day, another veteran that's working with one of our counselors, a credit increase of 100 points. And what I
Amazing.
about his story that I could relate with was that, look, I've been deployed twice for my country. That was challenging enough. And then coming home and, like, and it was me 'cause I felt the same way. I When I came home, I didn't wanna be in the police department. That was
Sure.
gonna give me PTSD, things like that. So there's some jobs that, like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. But he came and goes, "David, I didn't realize how challenging this was gonna be." And one of the things that I could share with him that made so many veterans tell me all the time, I had to swallow my pride.
Mm,
I had to trust the process, not rush the process. These are his words, not mine. I'm just like,
sure.
it inspires me. And so he was able to change his life around. He's gonna get his bachelor's degree and, graduate next year. His tone is different. He's talking about generational wealth and looking for
Oh,
getting paid for a home loan. And so we're gonna be featuring him next. But and then I'll give you another example. So, oh my goodness, I have so many. But the last one I'll talk about, I just talked to Frank Cromwell. He called me in New Jersey back in 2021. He got evicted. 74-year-old veteran, Vietnam veteran.
oh,
Social Security, VA disability, 100%. He has the income, but he can't find affordability in America.
sure.
Now, that doesn't make you, I mean, and we hear them all. There's situations where some veterans, they refuse to go to the shelters. You have all your life belongings in a U-Haul in the middle of the street. And he was running out of his monthly disbursement because the hotel lodging was like 250, 270 a night. So it was going fast. I don't know what to do. I never thought I was going to use credit again. My wife's passed away so many years. I told him, call our team, call our team. And in Texas, we have more affordable housing. I mean, those are the kind of things we talk about in credit counseling. Like, hey, have you thought about this? Look at this place over here, for your affordability. Let's find a solution. Like, what are your goals? This 75-year-old man drove across country all the way to Beaumont, Texas so he could
Wow.
or a better affordability. And between that time, we're telling him, hey, pay this on the first and they should clear you get for your creditor. He was able to get in his apartment. But those are situations where we need to talk about finances. We need to keep our
Yes.
credit intact because everything changes in life. Frank was married, thought he was going to be there forever in New Jersey with his wife, but things happen. So that's a prime example. And you know what? Frank today, oh my goodness, I gotta send you pictures, but I'm gonna send you pictures of I'm gonna send you pictures of his mobile home. But that warms my heart. And Frank was one of those veterans that we have in our pipeline monthly. Every time something calls for fraud, he gets one of those letters, or I got a phone call, David. He calls Mark or Jacob, and they ease his mind. You know what? That's a service we should be doing to our veterans who don't have any other family.
Right. We're one community. And I love the fact that at Soldier On, you're working as one community. I love it. These success stories are amazing. And you said something so important, the tone, right? So a little bit of positive momentum can go such a long way in changing your tone, your outlook, your generational wealth, your life, what your legacy. The difference that a 100 or 200 jump in your credit score can make to your bottom line and your overall situation and life is incredible. And I also love that you guys are working with veterans to think about things that may never have been thought about. If you relocate to Texas, do you understand what kind of a different lifestyle you might be able to live? Sometimes people don't think about stuff like that. It's amazing. I love these stories. So soldieronsuccess.org if you want to read more. And I would like to ask you, so we're talking about veteran homelessness. It's such an important issue. I shared a statistic about this, and at Soldier On, we just heard some of the stories. You guys are doing so much to help turn that around. And although we see nationally, I looked at this before we chatted, these numbers are decreasing just a little bit. There's so much work to still be done. So if somebody's listening to this podcast and they want to make a difference or get involved, how can they help?
Great question. Google SSVF and the state you're in, reach out to those organizations. And I could promise you every organization has a wellness program, just like Soldier On. And I believe everybody has value. And so if you look in our direct website or go into our social media platforms within Instagram or Facebook with Soldier On, you're going to see all these great organizations that come out and visit our communities. We have the Boston Bruins that go out there, and it doesn't take money. I teach financial
Right.
education. That's my background. So I work with endeavors here in San Antonio. I've worked with the vets and different organizations to help their veteran populations with financial education. We have organizations that do knitting and they go to the veterans women's shelter and they just do knitting all day.
Oh,
There's so
wow.
many ways you could get to get back, and if you're a bank out there, a lender, you're intrigued by this program, we're a nonprofit. Bankers have come into our organization and teach veterans home loans 101. We've had
Oh,
local bank entities come in and use their community service time that they get paid for to come and teach our veterans about a savings account. So
wonderful.
everybody has value. And there's so many ways you could give, not just to our veteran community. I really challenge you to do that with your own community as well.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because again, it's this idea of working together. We really are one. And this power of not only helping, giving and receiving help, but also this power of networking, right? Everybody's got value, and you never know what you might learn or give or receive from the person next to you until you reach out. So, again, I'm going to give these resources again. Google SSVF in your state. What do you have?
No, no. I mean, I just, there's so much I could talk about, but I wanted to share one thing. And there was an organization, great organization, they called Drop the Beat Farms. Right? And so they helped us create hydroponic greenhouses in our communities. So now our veterans
Oh,
go out and they grow vegetables. And what's great about this is that we give them back to the community. We give them in Agawam, Tinton Falls, New Jersey, and we produce this and we give it back to Soldier On Kitchen because we provide meals at our shelters and
okay.
food bank, and it's just great. So our veterans are even giving back. So that's an innovative idea that, like, look, these veterans are in the community. Let's help create this. It
Yep.
helps with mental health. So I could talk on and off different organizations that help us. I told you in our Gordon Mansfield communities, when people get selected to live there, all their furniture is furnished. That's a
Yeah.
furniture store, like, stepping up and saying, "You know what? The veterans had a journey. Let us do this for them. They made it." So there's so many ways to give, but I just had to point that out because there's so many great organizations that call us. They'll get with info@wesoldron.org if you're an
Okay.
organization out there. And if you just want to send an inquiry, our marketing team will respond. But we work with hundreds of organizations, Panera Bread, Walmart, you name it. But there's so many ways you could give back, not only for the veteran community, but for any community.
So you really are also acting as sort of a conduit to connect veterans and community members to these resources and programs, and then connect resources and programs to people that they may not have known that they were out there. So I love sort of Soldier On as this kind of, I'm thinking of it like a meeting place, right? So to
Yeah.
speak.
And we got to think about it like this. When you look at homeless people, it's community. That's how we're felling our people, is because and really, the people want some final thoughts and things like that, is that it's a loss of community, and we need to get back to that. And so we engage in so many different ways. You know who John Bon Jovi is?
Of course.
Of course, right? So in our Pimpkin Falls, New Jersey, we're next door to his JBJ Soul Kitchen. So our homeless veterans are serving there. They're learning things, but they come barbecue. But again, there's so many ways you can network, and that's one of many organizations that we could talk about. Robert Kraft from the New England Patriots had donated half of the proceeds to our new Tewksbury site in
Wow.
Massachusetts. So everybody, no matter what you have, no matter at all, come in and knit with us. If you know how to play guitar, come in. But I just like sharing that because it just puts a smile on my face that when we have organizations reach out and support our veterans.
I'm so inspired by this conversation, and I keep repeating this phrase, it just keeps repeating in my head, everybody's got value. And I love it. So again, veterans learn more and connect with you, so we've heard SSVF, Google SSVF in your state, reach out at 866-406-8469. If you're local, and 888-288-3184 if you're anywhere else. Soldieronsuccess.org.
Yeah, and that one for anywhere else, it's for financial counseling. Get a free credit report. You're active. You're out there listening. Hey, I want to be proactive. Call our services. They're free and unlimited. We've helped so many people reach affordable housing, financial goals. It's just great, and it's a resource that everybody should take advantage of. And the difference, what makes us a little difference too, we're going to help the people in your household because it makes no sense just helping the veteran. If you have, where most families are generational, you have three generations living in one. So we're going to help everybody in the family be successful.
That's such a good point. I think oftentimes it's easy to sort of forget that it's the veteran who served our country, but the family serves as well. Everybody is sort of involved in this journey and everybody needs support. And I think a lot of times we tend to forget that. So, again, this idea that nobody is left behind and we're community and everybody's got value, I love it so much. So, how can veterans, active duty, civilians, learn more and connect with you?
Very simple. They could do two things. They want to connect with me, go to info@wesoldieron.org. And if they like to utilize our services, we're on soldieronsuccess.org. And you can learn more about our program. And then we have our intake channels there, and you'll be directed to me. I'll love to hear any inquiries. And again, we're only better together.
David, this has been such an uplifting conversation. Are there any final tips or sort of inspirational nuggets that you wanted to share before we wrap up?
What I like to say is that we need to understand, and when we're out there, is forget what you think about homeless people. Forget anything that comes through your mind when you see a homeless person. People don't want to be homeless. That's
Right.
the truth. And the issue, and I said this earlier, my CEO has said this, it's a loss of community where people become homeless. And I've seen so many people rehabilitate mental issues, drug abuse. They're still here. And we need to make them know that they're here for a purpose. And a lot of the homeless people that I go speak with and I visit the shelters, sometimes it can be very challenging, but we got to remember, let them remember that we're here to fight with them, not
Yeah.
not against them, right? Because it's a battle. And mental health is real. We've seen it. It takes over 22 veterans a day,
I
which
know.
is very saddening. And the last thing I want to think about is that veteran having financial stress in those final moments, because there's always a solution. And so, again, the one thing I would tell you, the main difference that I've seen over the last few years working with homeless veterans is that they don't have family.
Great.
So imagine you not having family or resource, and let's say you hit a hardship. You get an offender bender. You don't have $800 to ask anybody, an aunt, uncle, distant cousin, a friend. You and I, you probably have a lot of family. You probably have distant cousins. So what is the probability of someone like us being homeless? It's very rare because someone's going to step up. That's the
Right.
difference between these people. They just don't have anybody. So just
Mm.
remember that before we make any misconceptions, and remember community, our support services, people can be rehabilitated. So remember, homelessness is not a choice.
I love that. And I think we all have a responsibility here. Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, your positivity, your optimism, your excitement, your passion. David, I have loved talking to you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Long Story Short, brought to you by Money Management International. To learn more about our work and how we're helping people in all walks of life repay debt, balance their budget, and find lasting financial peace of mind, visit moneymanagement.org.